And as far as CDMA is concerned, there are no takers. Sistema has made it very clear that it feels the pricing that the government has set is very, very high, and therefore it will not participate in the 800 megahertz auction. The lone CDMA operator in India decides to stay away from the auction. Nisha.
Gauri, this is Supriya. I'm just joining in from the Delhi newsroom. Very quickly, you mentioned Reliance Jio has joined in the fray as far as spectrum auctions are concerned. 2100 megahertz, is that what Reliance is looking at, and does that surprise you?
Well, Supriya, the fact is, it was expected, the industry was expecting that Reliance Jio will really be the key player as far as which way this auction will be headed. And it's pretty much along those lines. Sources tell us that Reliance Jio has submitted an application to participate, and that is to buy Pan-India spectrum in both 2100 as well as 900 megahertz. Pan-India spectrum of 5 megahertz block in both 3G as well as 900 megahertz. That really is pretty much the story of these auctions. So you're going to have a Reliance Jio that is going to be extremely aggressive, extremely competitive as far as these two bands are concerned. These are, of course, the premium bands that all telecom companies, especially the larger ones, need. And now you are going to have that a very aggressive auction where Reliance Jio is looking to buy it on a pan-India basis. It also, of course, gives a glimpse into the company's telecom strategy going forward. It has 4G, but really the play is going to be around 3G, that is 2100 and 900 megahertz. So the big story of the auction will, of course, be a very aggressive Reliance Jio looking to buy pan-India spectrum in both 3G as well as 900 megahertz.
Gauri Dwivedi, thanks very much for getting us details. We'll take it across to the man who's had his finger in the pie of telecom for many, many years now and understands the sector very well. Mr. Sanjay Kapoor joins us right here on ET Now. Thanks very much, Mr. Kapoor, for being with us. Like Gauri was pointing out, there are 7 telecom operators in the fray. The action to be centered around the 900 megahertz band, 2100 megahertz also in much demand. Let me first begin by talking to you about the number of players in the fray. Does that surprise you, given that this is a steeply priced auction? And also, do you expect pricing or auction bids to be aggressive?
I think from the word go, we were all very clear that it's business continuity issue for the incumbent operators like Airtel, Vodafone, Idea to protect their turf. Otherwise, business continuity becomes a big question. I think addition of GIO, addition of Uninor, addition of one more player I think came in, Aircel, is a surprise to the category, and I think it only says that now the auctions will be even more heated than probably we were envisaging earlier, because the incumbent operators will try to protect their turf, and I'm sure these challengers will drive the price of the auction upwards.
I was actually going to ask you specifically on Reliance Jio. I mean, much has been written and said about how the entry will perhaps change the telecom landscape. One has waited for that to happen. It hasn't really. But do you believe their entry into the auction process, and especially eyeing the 3G spectrum, which is any case is scarcity induced, will that make a huge difference to this auction?
I think entry of Jio can be interpreted in 2 different ways. One is that GIO has realized that just having a 4G network on 2.3 gigahertz and 1.8 gigahertz is not enough, and to bring in continuity and pervasiveness in the network, you need a 3G layer to fall back on, for which both 900 megahertz for in-building coverage and 1800 megahertz for outdoor coverage are potent to make that happen. 2.3 gigahertz, 2.1 gigahertz for outdoor are potent to make that happen. But suppose Reliance was not to win, or GIO was not to win this, it is further going to drive the prices of both 900 and 2.1 gig upwards for rest of the industry. So I think any which way you look at, it only points to the direction that this is going to make life more difficult and expensive for the incumbent operators.
But while it makes life difficult and expensive for incumbent operators for reasons that you've pointed out there, this does have obvious ramifications on tariff, doesn't it? The government has already said they're looking to garner about 80,000 crore rupees. Of course, they've been very gung-ho on 800 megahertz as well, a story that I'm going to speak to you just next. But the obvious implications on tariff, can India still see rock-bottom tariff with spectrum being so costly?
I think the day we had a policy defined which said you first surrender your 900 megahertz, 800 megahertz, and then go and win them back again for survival. And the day we had just one band of 2.1 gigahertz put on for 3G for auction, I think the prices going up was already ascertained. And there is no way that existing operators can absorb these costs going forward. When the raw material is so expensive, the end product or the end service has to be expensive. So I think this was predefined at the time when the whole structure or the design of the auctions was finalized.
I have a last question to you on the CDMA spectrum. There are no takers. Their system has decided not to bite the bullet. They'll stay away from the spectrum auction process. Reliance Communication has applied for the GSM ban and not for CDMA. How are you reading this? Of course, it's a dying technology. Nobody shies away from the fact. But what about existing business? No takers there for 800 megahertz?
800 is a potent spectrum, not for CDMA, but can be reformed as extended GSM band the way it is done in other parts of the world. And I think government and the licensors should look at that afresh and see how the spectrum can be utilized, because any band below 1 gig can be very potent for indoor coverage. And therefore, India will need this band going forward with a complete agnostic approach on technology. So I think if CDMA doesn't have takers, doesn't mean that the spectrum can't be used for something else. We will have to relook at the use of this going forward and put it to deployment, because it is going to be an effective band of spectrum going forward.
Mr. Kapoor, we appreciate you joining us on ET Now with your perspective on the spectrum auction, one that is likely to change the telecom landscape in the country, but one that you're pointing out will be very, very expensive, and telecom operators need to be careful there. It's back to Nisha Fodar in the Mumbai studios.